As you all know, the Hudson Valley is thriving with innovation and advances in biomedical, high-tech, and life science industries. Our member companies supply important and high-paying jobs within New York State. Our New York inventors and researchers work every day to create truly remarkable advances. We are constantly looking for new ways to support our entrepreneurs and our startups. As 2017 begins under a new presidential administration, we're gathered here today to discuss growing innovation in New York, the impact innovation has on the U.S. economy, and obstacles that researchers and inventors face. To keep the U.S. on track as a worldwide leader in innovation, we look to our federal lawmakers in Congress to protect intellectual property rights of our inventors. Many of you here today and on our panel are patent holders and understand the importance of our patent system. We're happy to have panelists here today from a variety of important perspectives to give their thought on growth and how potential regulatory and policy changes can affect the innovators of the Hudson Valley.
You know, we're looking around, we're seeing so many companies that are letting folks go and high unemployment, and yet when we looked at a certain industry, we saw that biotechnology companies like Regeneron and Accord Therapeutics and others were hiring. Regeneron was hiring 100 people at a clip at very, very high-paying salaries. Very well-educated individuals. Perfect when you think about it, for just using Westchester County as an example. That's like the sweet spot for Westchester County. And so the question was, why are these companies hiring when everybody else is letting go? We need to learn a little bit more about it. And so I met with the folks here at York Medical College, which has always been a jewel in the crown of not just the county, but the state, the country, the world, in terms of turning out top-rate physicians and researchers. And had a conversation with them, trying to figure out, you know, what's happening in this industry. The nurturing of these companies, having a space connected to incredible research professionals that can feed off of them and feed off of each other and nurture them, to see this building in the condition it is now, which is incredible, to see people here doing the research. As we move forward, to continue growing has meant that we have to mature in terms of our level of engagement, of what we get involved with, trying to bring more venture capital to this area, trying to bring, again, additional attention, trying to stop legislation or other things that would impede the continued growth. But in terms of the future and what we see, which we'll talk about in a little bit, I think it's just, we're on an amazing, amazing path.
I've seen the importance of patents from multiple sides in terms of protecting a product, in terms of helping companies get funding, and then in terms of companies who later want to acquire. So it's very interesting to see how important patents play, how important a role patents play in all of these different aspects. It's also interesting because I've dealt with the patent space for so long, I've sort of seen an evolution in how people view patent rights, how strong patent rights should be. There's sort of been sort of this shift in how policy-wise people are looking at patents. So when I first started off, universities weren't really looking to patent a lot of their technologies, and I saw how that has shifted, where universities are now really seeing the value in patenting the technologies that come out of their research.
Talked a bit this morning about IPRs, the inter partes review system, and how it affects life science companies. This is probably our #1 federal priority right now, and has been for about the last 3 years, is either amending or getting rid of the IPR system. As we probably discussed, the very first target of an IPR attack was at Corda, which is just around the corner here. As you may know, after a couple of years of litigation, they actually won the suit. The very next day, Kyle Bass relaunched a new attack, IPR attack on Accorda. Because there's no statute of limitations on these things. There's no, once you've lost, you have to move on. You can just keep filing over and over and over and over again. And as you saw, when hedge funds do this, they generally short the stock before they announce the IPR. Announce the IPR, the stock plummets, the hedge fund takes their chunk home, and costs them nothing basically at that point to continue the litigation.
The court is the patent system to a small inventor like yourself.
Well, it's lifeblood. I mean, it's second only to people in terms of attracting investment, as far as I'm concerned. That's the asset that you're trying to create that will drive everything from how you start the company to attracting capital to incentivizing even your own team, to innovate because they see, they get some credit. In academics, you publish papers, but we don't have time to publish papers. What's the credit I give to my people? Well, they get their name on a patent, right? So I have right now 18, maybe even more than that, issued patents, and I've licensed probably another 10.
So there's a two-pronged approach on the patents, your own innovations and your competitors, knowing what their patents are that would prevent you from carrying out your key steps. And so there's the inside and outside of the patent world of what we watch. These companies were small and didn't have huge budgets, but they filed on their antibodies. This one company also filed on their platform technology. The companies were acquired by larger companies, not for those portfolios. They were not the key compounds that were eventually so commercially successful were not necessarily the drivers of the deal at the time. So our message on on patents, especially in the biotech area, is when you're innovating, you can't predict 10 to 20 years down the road, and you have to do what's best to your ability at that moment. And so we file as many patents as your budget can afford strategically in areas that we hope will offer you value and provide lots of options. And the other thing is the patents are worldwide. So Europe and Asia don't have some of the problems that we have in limiting subject matter and other aspects that have impacted diagnostics more recently. So the diagnostics field is very difficult right now in the patent area, but I'd say the antibodies and the other sort of biologics are having a little bit of a more positive time getting patents granted.
In the last 10 years or so, we have seen, really largely driven by some very well-known, great American companies, household names, who happen to be among the largest companies in the history of humankind, whose business model is effectively taking other people's intellectual property, assembling it into a really cool product, and selling that product. Now, what that means is for them, patents are inputs. And to the extent they can lower the value of those inputs, that helps their business model. So you've had these companies who have embarked on a campaign, both policy in Washington, lobbying for changes to the patent system, but also PR to support those changes, also to convince judges that the whole system is completely screwed up and you've got to really change the system and dumb down patents because they're too strong. Patent rights are too strong. And they've been, I have to say, fairly successful. There was a large change in the patent system in 2011 called the American Invents Act. It started out much more aggressive, much more damaging for patent holders, and due to the efforts in part of the Innovation Alliance, but I would say we work very closely in conjunction with the rest of the patent stakeholding community. That includes the Biotech Innovation Organization, includes the pharmaceutical manufacturers, it includes the National Venture Capital Association, the Medical Device Manufacturers Association, University Association, including many in New York. I was just looking at the list. The SUNY system, Rensselaer, Pace, New York University, Cornell, my alma mater, all of whom agreed that while there may be inefficiencies in the patent system, while there may be opportunities for abuse, we should target our measures to address that abuse, but we shouldn't harm the entire patent system in order to get at that abuse. So not using a sledgehammer to get at a fly.
The issue of patents really comes down to how much you put into your belief that it's really the individuals and that intellectual capital that is locked within those brains that is the true wealth and the true wealth that you keep mining over and over in the region. We tend not to do that here, even though we put great emphasis on our schools and our education and the fostering of those brains. Somehow that gets lost once they are inside an office park. And we have to move away from that. So I go back to where I originally started in terms of the education process to get elected officials, the media, others to really understand that it was a brain that conceived that idea. The patents and the protection of that intellectual property, the fostering of intellectual capital is the economy, has been the economy of the region. We just didn't realize it. But we need to get folks to realize it because that is absolutely the future of the economy as the region moves forward.